All right. So again, thank you all very much for joining us this morning to just talk about what we at Department of State have seen in our experiences to be strong revitalization projects in downtowns. My name is Susan Lanfried. I'm a revitalization specialist with the Department of State, and I primarily work in the Mid-Hudson region. And I'm joined by my colleague, Kylie Peck, who's also a revitalization specialist, and she primarily works in the North Country. So just want to give a quick agenda for what we're going to be talking about today. We'll do a brief overview of the DRI and New York Forward programs, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Talk about the types of DRI and New York Forward projects and what makes these types of projects particularly strong and compelling and different characteristics of those. I'm going to provide some examples from across the state, and then Kylie is going to talk about examples of what makes up a strong project portfolio for a community that's really rethinking about revitalizing its downtown. So to start, what are the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and New York Forward programs? So as you know, DRI and New York Forward are two programs with common goals, which are built upon the plan, then act idea, meaning that through these programs, communities will go through a rapid planning process, and then funds from the community's DRI or New York Forward award will be used to implement projects identified in that planning process. Overall, these are statewide investment programs that are aimed at reinvigorating local and regional economies. So DRI was first launched in 2016. It is now in its sixth round with the application for the seventh round ongoing. Previous to this round, DRI had invested $600 million in 59 communities across the state. In this year, Governor Hochul announced a total of $200 million for DRI and New York Forward programs, with $100 million for DRI and $100 million for New York Forward. $10 million for one community in each region for DRI. And then with New York Forward, there are up to 3 winners. You can either have two $4.5 million winners per region, or one $4.5 million winner and two $2.25 million winners. So with DRI, we generally see DRI communities representing larger geographical areas. They often have a regional draw and are major employment centers, and often consist of dense urban development with different transportation options. New York Forward communities are generally smaller communities, or they're neighborhoods with a concentrated node or corridor of activities. Often you see less dense development, but these are still compact, walkable communities, and they do have a distinct sense of place and character to themselves. So the goals of the program is you all familiar with. We want to create an active downtown with a strong sense of place. So something that is unique to that downtown. Want to attract new businesses that create a robust mix of shopping, entertainment, and service options for residents and visitors, but also that provide jobs for a variety of skills and salaries. We want to enhance public spaces for arts and cultural events that serve the existing members of the community, but draw in people from around the region. Also want to build a diverse population supported by diverse housing and employment opportunities. Grow the local property tax base. Provide various amenities that support and enhance downtown living and enhance the quality of life for downtown, but the larger community as well. And then the last one, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and supporting resilient investments that are going to be resilient to future climate change impacts. So just a bit about the process, very high level. We typically have 4 major milestones during the planning process, which you can see here. So as part of the DRI and New York Forward application process, communities begin some of this work by submitting a preliminary revitalization vision and potential projects for implementation. During the DRI and New York Forward planning process for those awarded communities, a consultant team hired by the state will do a deeper dive on the selected community and its opportunities and challenges. The community will be led through a process to refine that vision and those goals, and then identify new and review potential projects, some of which may come from that application that many communities are putting together right now, and some others that may be identified during the planning process. We do have extensive public outreach to really ensure that we are getting broad information from the community and other project ideas that may not have been identified during the application process. But what we want to focus on today is the project identification and development component of this planning process and what really helps create strong projects. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kylie, who is going to talk about the types of DRI and New York Forward projects and those characteristics of really excellent revitalization projects.
All right, thanks so much, Susan. So Susan just went over the very basics of our application process, the goals of the DRI and New York Forward programs, but I thought it would be really great if we started out with the types of projects in the eligibility categories that we typically see through both of these programs. So as you can see, there are 4 project categories that we are working with through both the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and New York Forward. First is the New Development and Building Rehabilitation Projects category. This may include the development or redevelopment of property for mixed use, commercial, residential, not-for-profit, or public uses. These projects should have a visible and functional impact on the downtown, serving as catalytic or transformative projects that provide employment opportunities, housing choices, or services for the community. The next category are the public improvement projects. These may include projects such as streetscape and beautification, transportation improvements, recreational trails within a downtown that connect pedestrians, wayfinding signage, new and upgraded parks, plazas, public art, green infrastructure, and other things that might be within the public realm and contribute to the revitalization and beautification of the downtown. We're often seeing a small project fund awarded. Typically, what we see through this is a number of smaller downtown projects, such as facade enhancements, building renovation improvements to commercial or mixed use spaces, business assistance, and even public art. And finally, rounding out our eligible project categories is branding and marketing. These projects may target residents, investors, developers, tourists, or visitors. Some examples of the branding and marketing projects include the development of a new downtown brand or the creation of a downtown website or mobile app. This type of project is often paired with other public improvements, such as the creation of wayfinding signage, where the brand can really contribute to the physical part of the downtown. Please keep in mind that we will take a look at specific project examples later on for each of these categories in the presentation. So now that we've reviewed project eligibility in the categories of projects that we see through both the DRI and New York Forward programs, I want to focus on what projects are the most suitable. All projects start with an idea, but the projects ready for the DRI and New York Forward programs and often other sources of grant funding are the ones that have progressed beyond the idea phase. Projects that are still ideas are the ones that are wishes of improvements or development, but there are major questions or challenges about these ideas that haven't been resolved or have no possibility of being resolved. For example, a project idea may include a splash pad at a local park. However, the park in question has no plumbing running to it and no capability to do so. The municipality does not have funds to deal with the splash pad. Maybe they can't maintain it, or have someone monitor it, or make sure the landscaping is being taken care of. While this is an idea that may be beneficial to the community and help revitalization in the area, it's just an idea because there's no infrastructure needed to pump the water that is necessary to support a splash pad, nor does the entity with the authority to implement the project have the financial wherewithal to maintain the improvement. It might make a great idea, but given these challenges, it's just an idea and unfortunately not a project. Another great idea could be the creation of a community art space. However, the entity or person with this idea may not own or have access to a building that could house the art space. And maybe there's no funding to operate the space or the organization. Maybe the individual doesn't have the idea or not the idea, but the experience managing the project or the ability to implement and operate such a project. This makes it less feasible. While a community art space may be needed in the community, these issues often prevent the project idea from progressing into a viable project. One more project example from a private side could be the construction of a mixed-use building on a long-standing vacant lot in the heart of downtown. However, there's no business or entity to develop the property. While this is a project idea that could potentially meet all of the DRI or New York Forward goals, without a developer who owns the property or has the financing, plans, or experience to do so, the project unfortunately remains an idea that can't be implemented. So, how does a project get from the idea stage to a viable project that is ready to be further developed through the DRI or New York Forward planning process? First, the project proposer needs to have the legal authority and capacity to implement the project, meaning they either own the property or have permission from the property owner to conduct the suggested improvements. It also means that they have some experience that shows they can see a project through to completion. As you can imagine, financing is essential. While DRI and New York Forward can provide funds to public, private, and not-for-profit projects, these projects must be able to finance the project components that might not be eligible using grant funds, and also must demonstrate the ability to finance the project in full, as both Downtown Revitalization Initiative and New York Forward programs are reimbursable grants. Project plans and a budget that show the project has been fully or mostly developed are important. A strong project for DRI or New York Forward is not one where you're still throwing ideas out to see what sticks at the end. It's one where a lot of big details are really figured out. For example, a viable park improvement project is one where a municipality has identified the amenities that they want, the approximate costs, and other grants or local funds to help with the financing. They've generally developed the concept and site plan of how the improved park would look, but the very specifics aren't required. We wouldn't need to know the exact plants that maybe they would want to add to their landscaping or the exact park benches that they want to include along their streetscape, for instance. So what does make for a really strong DRI and New York Forward project? Now that we know the basics of what makes a project viable, we'll get into what really makes it ready to be included in a community's strategic investment plan. A project which has gone through a planning and development process that goes beyond the common public improvements or deferred maintenance activities make for a really strong project. These often address multiple challenges or opportunities within a community, such as a street design concept that addresses stormwater management issues within a downtown, or perhaps it's a need for incubator space for new businesses with a known not-for-profit organization suited to develop the project with the ability to provide funds and manage the project through completion and beyond with an operating plan. A strong DRI New York Forward project often includes community input and recognizes the historic context of the downtown and involves synergies between programs and stakeholders within the community. These projects often attract positive downtown activity and increase foot traffic by way of adding new housing units, commercial spaces, tourist opportunities, or entertainment, leisure, arts, and cultural activities. The strongest DRI and New York Forward projects align with state and local goals, have a catalytic effect that will attract additional public and private investment. They're well developed and poised to proceed under an eligible project type. These projects demonstrate an effective use of public resources and present financial leverage to stretch the revitalization dollars throughout the downtown. Additionally, projects that generate secondary benefits to the community or developer beyond their primary goals that create positive, lasting effects and spearhead future economic benefit contribute to the mix of impactful potential projects that should be considered for DRI and New York Forward funding. Before we begin sharing specific project examples, I just want to remind everyone here today that each project and community is very different and unique. Today, we're sharing the qualities and characteristics of strong revitalization projects, assisting with transforming downtowns across the state. Each of the projects require detailed planning and design to reach the point of construction, and some overcome development challenges that come along with complex revitalization projects. With that, I'll pass it back over to Susan to review some specific project examples that we've seen through past DRI rounds.
Thanks, Kylie. So we want to highlight a few of the projects from around the state during the first round of DRI, 5 rounds of DRI that were really strong. Some of these projects have been completed and some are still in progress. So we'll start with projects that are either new development or rehabilitation of existing buildings. So the first project is the Rail Trail Commons in Middletown, which was a round 1 DRI community. This project transformed a former Woolworth department store building, which you can see in that upper right corner, and it had been vacant for over 20 years. It's now a space that hosts 3 restaurants, all of which are accessible by this central covered outdoor walkway. The restaurants were selected through the city's Race for Space program, which provided $20,000 in matching funds to the tenants, and then also provided reduced rent for up to 24 months to help spur these businesses along. This Rail Trail Commons also serves as a spur on the Heritage Trail, and it enhances a gateway to downtown. Essential to the strength of this project is that it was already going through a planning process. The city had already appropriated some funds and acquired other funding for acquisition and architectural and engineering fees for this project. The city also received funding from the Middletown IDA and some other state grants. And so the DRI funds for this were really to help implement and close some of the funding gaps to make this project happen. The other things this project helped address was it renovated a large dilapidated building in the heart of the downtown. It also provided an opportunity for entrepreneurs and new businesses to start and grow. Further, its location along the Heritage Trail that I mentioned, which is a 19-mile trail along the former Erie Railroad, is just an example of synergizing with another downtown asset. These businesses in the Commons are new commercial spaces that will also bring additional foot traffic into downtown. So going back to that list of strong project characteristics, this project hit a lot of those. The next project we want to highlight is the Litatro development in the city of Oswego. So this building was on a key corner of the downtown, or there was a building on a key corner of the downtown that was demolished to make way for this 4-story mixed-use building that contains 5,000 square feet of retail space, about 20 residential units, a rooftop deck, and basement parking. This project created space for businesses and attracted more residents to the downtown area, again, creating that foot traffic and additional activity. It also helped identify the need for more housing in Oswego, which had been identified in an earlier study, and helped build a customer base that was in downtown for those downtown businesses. Further, it enhanced the aesthetics of downtown, particularly as the location of this development was at the gateway to one of the downtowns. The next project, the Capitol Theater in Rome, resulted in the restoration of the theater's facade, marquee sign, and its interior to the 1930s design. It also included an update to its building systems. Like other strong DRI projects, this project was already in development by the time the DRI was awarded. A master plan for the revitalization of the theater had already been created and some work had begun. The DRI project, along with the other renovation work supported by other sources of funding, helped bring new activity to downtown Rome as the restored facility could bring additional shows to the theater. The project also recognized the historic importance of this building, so really thinking about the sense of place and what makes Rome unique by choosing to bring it back to its 1930s character, particularly with the marquee. This restoration helped revive this building as unique to downtown while providing that gathering space for residents and visitors. Another project is the former Cone building in Schenectady around Fork Winter. This project resulted in the renovation of the vacant former Cone building into a retail space and restaurant on the ground floor with office space above, and included upgrades to this 1950s facade. The business right now on the upper floors is Urban Coworks, which had relocated from a smaller location in downtown Schenectady. This features 32 offices of varying sizes and conference room. So not only did this project revive a vacant building at a key corner in downtown next to a pedestrian-only street, it enabled the addition of new jobs with the first floor retail and restaurant space and brought workers to downtown with a co-working space. As it also synergized with another DRI project, which include making J Street, which is adjacent to this building, a more inviting and walkable space, really again enhancing that sense of place and beautifying this area. And then the last building I want to talk about is one from DRI round 5. And so this one is still under construction. So 211 Main Street is a former industrial building in North Tonawanda that is currently being converted into a professional services incubator for entrepreneurial architecture, landscape architecture, engineering, and construction related businesses. The project has long been in development as the site underwent brownfield cleanup. Further, the building is also located in Brownfield Opportunity Area, has received Brownfield tax credits, received Empire State Development Fund, and is part of NYSERDA's Carbon Neutral Community Economic Development Program. The ability to leverage multiple programs really helped make this project possible and as impactful as it could be. So this building is estimated to bring 50 full-time jobs to the downtown. Beyond remediating a brownfield, rehabilitating a vacant building, adding activity to downtown, creating more jobs, this building is also incorporating various decarbonization techniques that will allow the building to serve as a model for carbon neutral design and construction methods. So going on to some of our public improvement projects that we've seen that are particularly impactful in the state. We have the Link, which is a New Rochelle project from round 3. And so this is a project that is still in the planning design phase. So the Link in New Rochelle will convert portions of a highway, which is an underutilized and unsafe space whose construction originally disconnected a community from the downtown, into a public space that will reconnect the community to downtown New Rochelle. This project is still in a detailed planning and design phase as the scale of it has required additional funding sources be identified and numerous project complexities, property acquisition, rights of way, emergency access, et cetera, to be accounted for. The other thing to note specifically about the Link is it's very much grounded in its historic context of trying to repair the mistakes of urban renewal that led to the construction of this highway. Additionally, through this ongoing design process, the city of New Rochelle has been very intentional in engaging the public in the design, particularly the neighborhoods that will be most affected by this investment. When completed, this project will transform this area as it goes beyond those basic parks improvements and maintenance and really creates an asset that is unique for residents and visitors. Another project to highlight is in the city of Olean, which implemented street enhancements with wayfinding signage in the downtown. The signage that you see here utilizes a community brand to direct residents and visitors to destinations within the downtown that helps create a unique community identity. Again, getting back to that idea of sense of place. The use of pavers and the addition of greenery creates a more appealing environment and public space, while also serving to manage the stormwater. So not only is it beautifying, but it does serve a very functional purpose as well. Like other strong projects, this project was built on an existing streetscape initiative, so the planning for such an development had long been in process. Another one is in the city of Auburn, where the city in round 3 developed a centrally located vacant site into a public plaza to fill a need for more open spaces in downtown Auburn. The lot had been owned by the city since the mid-90s when it was acquired under tax foreclosure. It had previously been a department store that was demolished, and there had been multiple attempts to redevelop this property before the city decided to make it a park in this public space. DRI improvements to the space included public art, movable furniture, pedestrian scale lighting, landscaping, bike racks, interpreted signage, and now the site is home to an annual concert series. By incorporating art and furniture and landscaping in a flexible performance space, this is now unique to the city and really creates that sense of place, fills a demand for open space, removes a vacant lot from the area, and just adds activity, particularly through concerts and other events that can now be hosted in downtown. And then the last public improvement project I want to highlight is a project in Westbury on Long Island, which helped to improve traffic circulation and create a new pedestrian plaza. This project also improved the connection with the Long Island Railroad Station and downtown by facilitating safer crossings from the station to downtown. Further, this occurred in conjunction with a Long Island Railroad project that was going to be enhancing their station and their plaza outside the station. Further, this improved the gateway to downtown while also helping to create a new public space. So just want to talk briefly about our small project fund and what we've seen as some successes in that. I just want to highlight that the small project fund is for those projects that may not rise to being a standalone DRI or New York Forward project, but it can help fund projects that can collectively transform a downtown. While the small projects in this category may not possess all of the characteristics of one singular strong project, it is the collection of these facade improvements or equipment acquisition assistance for businesses that can make the small project fund particularly transformational. Here you can see in the city of Glens Falls improvements that were made to 19 Exchange Street, which completely transformed the exterior of this building, improving the attractiveness of downtown. Multiple facade improvements would enhance the attractiveness of a downtown area, while also helping to recover some of the historic character and support businesses by making them a more inviting space. And then the last one I want to highlight is our branding and marketing. Branding and marketing projects can really help make the downtown feel connected. Downtown Plattsburgh, around one winter, embarked on a branding and marketing project with the creation of a new brand for the downtown. The brand was then implemented through an interactive website shown here, which directs residents and visitors to various amenities in Plattsburgh, including trails and walks, parks, things to do, historic landmarks, and public parking. This branding was coupled with wayfinding signage, which is a very visible way of implementing a new brand and visually identifying the downtown. Plattsburgh installed new vehicular and pedestrian wayfinding signage using the new brand that not only included locational information, but also featured historical context for places in downtown. This project visibly shows the synergies between the downtown improvement projects, highlights the community's unique character, and points visitors and residents to downtown amenities, helping to facilitate patronage of downtown businesses. Activating the wayfinding signage system designed through this project has assisted with downtown navigation for vehicles and pedestrians as well. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Kylie, who's going to talk about what a collection of projects looks like for revitalizing a downtown.
Thanks, Susan. So we just heard about a number of specific project examples that have been successful in past DRI rounds. And as you know, we are currently going through our first round of New York Forward. So the next time we do this, we'll have an opportunity to share successful projects through that program as well. But I'd like to highlight attributes of a strong project portfolio or a strong mix of revitalization projects that can assist with strengthening a downtown and creating a sense of place for residents and visitors. So when it comes to downtown revitalization efforts, it's recommended to have a great mix of projects from a diverse pool of project sponsors, including private, public, and not-for-profit organizations that can benefit residents and potential visitors. These projects should create synergy in the downtown and create year-round activity to enhance economic diversity. An attractive and inviting downtown can be realized through the development of projects reflecting the varied interests of community residents and support the needs of various age ranges. We've selected a few communities to highlight that have had strong project portfolios to share with you today. First up is the city of Oswego, a DRI-1 community. We saw in Oswego, which we recently celebrated them completing all of their projects that went through the DRI process and included in their strategic investment plan. We saw a broad portfolio of projects submitted through this process that really focused on new construction and rehabilitation with project sponsors from both private and not-for-profit sectors. These projects developed new housing options in the downtown, updated and built new commercial spaces, added jobs, amenities, and entertainment options for residents and visitors. Supporting these projects, of course, and further adding value to the downtown were a number of public improvements, which you can see listed on the screen, which really created synergy. It increased safety and beautified the downtown while making it pedestrian friendly, that connects to their waterfront. Through the planning process, it was clear that there was a need for further local business growth, building renovation, and outdoor programming. So a small project fund was also established to support these activities. Next, we take a look at the portfolio submitted in Watkins Glen, a round two community. The project portfolio really emphasized public improvements to the downtown with projects focused on park improvements, pedestrian and bike connections throughout the downtown and to the waterfront, and the installation of gateway and wayfinding signage to create a visually appealing community for residents and visitors. In addition to these public enhancements, the community worked to improve building aesthetics, increase commercial opportunities, and add housing and childcare through private and not-for-profit investments. A small project fund was also awarded to further enhance their downtown revitalization efforts. And finally, we take a look at Haverstraw, which was a round five DRI community, and we're starting to see these projects come to fruition now as we went through this was our latest round of planning that we went through with the community. Here we're seeing a strong mix of public, not-for-profit, and private investment that works together to strengthen the downtown. Public improvements, including park and recreational enhancements, shoreline stabilization, and improved connections to the multimodal ferry station, will result in an improved, cohesive downtown. These projects support the revitalization of mixed-use development, the creation of a new brew pub, and the expansion of a local cultural attraction. Rounding out the variety of projects in downtown Haverstraw is the addition of murals, a small project fund to restore additional facades throughout the downtown, and establishing a branding and marketing and wayfinding campaign to further enhance their revitalization efforts. So as you can see here, we've really taken the time to go over the basics of a number of items, an overview of the program, what makes a strong project as you're starting to consider, either applying for or preparing for DRI and New York Forward. There's a lot of work that goes into the planning and preparation of these things, and this should be used as a way to really start taking a look at what is available and what opportunities currently exist in your community. Susan has shared here for more information. You can visit our websites for both the New York Forward and Downtown Revitalization initiatives. We have more specific DRI case studies available on the website, and then also a link to our capacity building webinars, which have been building for quite some time on various capacity building exercises to prepare communities for the next rounds of DRI and New York Forward. So with that, I believe we have some questions in the chat. For anyone else that may have questions, we will be accepting them through the chat function. Please feel free to add those questions there. And I did see the very first question that came in: will this presentation be available after the webinar? And yes, we're recording this and it will be available at the DOS website, right under the capacity building webinar section that I had just shared. We have another question here asking about acquiring developers and property owners and their need to acquire the properties. So a lot of times we see through DRI and New York Forward, maybe there's a vacant property or somebody wants to purchase a building to develop a new project there. We do often see that happen through DRI and New York Forward. We certainly don't expect someone to purchase the property just for this specific grant funding opportunity. But what we do often see is a plan to purchase or get control of that site if there's a potential proposed project there. We often see, a letter of intent to purchase or a purchase offer, something of that nature to show. But we don't allow property acquisition to account as part of something that we would provide funding for. Susan, I don't know if you want to add to that response.
I think the only thing that I would add is that the DRI and New York Forward processes, while yes, we do absolutely have a planning process, these are really wanting to like make sure that we do have projects that can be implemented. We generally say like project readiness is a major criteria, and we want projects to be implemented and like shovels in the ground 2 years from like award. So that is one of the things, and we think like the planning process is still really important for bringing some of those projects out, and development can happen. But that is an important component of some of the successful projects.
There's another question here. Are any of these municipalities open to share? Would they welcome a visit? And would you recommend one? And I would say yes. I can't speak on behalf of every community across the state that has been awarded funding through DRI and New York Forward, but I would highly recommend visiting or at least making an initial phone call. I know the city of Oswego has done many, many tours for interested communities, and I am very confident in saying that others would be open to that as well. And I think it's a really great opportunity to be on the ground and see what they have been able to do to transform their downtown. And feel free to reach out to any of the communities or to us here at the state to see who might be a good one for you to visit. If you connect with us directly, we can help steer you to a community depending on what yours is that might make a good example to take a look at.
So we have another question. How involved must developers be during the application phase? Must they have plans and financial commitments? So in this phase right now, the application phase for DRI and New York Forward communities, I think the application requests to see potential projects. So if you know of developers that have projects that they are in considering developing, this is maybe more the idea phase too. Like that's something that you may want to submit in the application. During the planning process, like if we do have what's called an open call for projects, in which any potential project sponsor within the DRI or New York Forward area can submit a project. And so developers can submit a project proposal during that phase. And we do like to speak things like financial commitments and plans. Again, going back to that earlier comment about project readiness, and to see that something has kind of been in process for a while, that it's shifted from idea to a viable project.
Any last questions? And if not, at the beginning of the presentation, Susan and I included our email addresses. You can also reach out to us through the Department of State website, and you can connect with our team, and we can answer any questions you might have.
And I think our goal is to hopefully have this posted along with the presentation slides within the next week. Great. With that, thank you very much for attending. And again, please reach out if there's anything else that we can be of assistance with and answer any questions.